Thank you for tuning in to Look Before You Speak. And we have a very special guest on today, Rowan Lemus, who's actually a student at Hellgate High School. And, you know, we've had some different things on the program so far. We've had mixed media sculpture, and we've had some drawing, some painting, mixed media. And Rowan's going to kind of take it through some things that he's passionate about with computer graphics and animation. Is that right, Rowan?
Yeah, I got some animation stuff.
This is new for me, and I'm really thrilled and excited. And so, Rowan, how long have you been doing this?
Like art in general, or just
art in general?
I started when I was pretty young, like at about the third grade. I'm probably like 10 or 12 years old.
So drawing on paper.
Yeah, just
And then
all
how
the time.
long have you been involved in working on the computer?
I've been doing it for probably about 2 years.
Okay.
I've been trying it out for 2 years.
One of the concepts of this program is that we're trying to get our audience to kind of slow down in the way they approach looking at art. So, you know, commercial television kind of trains our eyes to demand and be entertained. Like, we want to look at something, but this program's not about that at all. So we're trying to gain an appreciation and step back and see how people create things and draw, and they might put things together in their head and actually put them down on paper, or in this case on the computer. Obviously, I think many artists who've been trained traditionally with drawing and painting might shy away from people using the computer to draw or paint, but just seeing this as an additional tool, just like an additional paintbrush or drawing tool.
Yeah, and
I'm thrilled you're coming on.
in a way it is. You know, a lot of people think that just doing this would be cheating. You know.
Have you heard that before?
Well, yeah, I've heard a lot of people just say that digital art would be just like, you know, cheat. It's a way for people to just cheat as an artist, or they're just a cheater in general.
That's funny.
And that can make it difficult for a lot of, you know, artists who
Self-conscious.
who like to use this medium to make a lot of their art. And
so I think what we're seeing now on the screen is actually some of the marks you're making actually on the screen.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's just like using
So you can select what kind of tool to make the mark that you want to make.
yeah, I'm just using a paintbrush for this one, but you can, you know, you can use the pencil tool
And
to
what's
make
this program called?
pencil lines. This is a Photoshop.
Okay.
So, and I'm doing this on a Wacom. It's hooked up to a computer, so that you can do everything here. Let's see, can go up here and get some color. Try grabbing.
So Rowan, when did you start on the computer?
Like using this type of stuff on the computer?
Yeah.
I started, I want to say freshman year, since I really got into computer graphics in a class that I took. So I had interest in what this all had to offered as an art for an art medium. I didn't really think that you could illustrate that well, since I didn't know there was art pens for, or this, you know, this type of screen to even do that type of art. All I thought there would be a mouse or something like that. But honestly, it's pretty much more. This is much more than I had expected it to be when
it first came out.
When I first started using it, because I didn't think that it would be the same as, you know,
drawing.
Yeah, I thought it would be more like, oh, it's more instantaneous, might be a little harder to understand.
So you find this experience just as rewarding as drawing on paper?
Yeah, it is. It is very rewarding to be able to draw on this and learn all this new stuff that you never probably would have thought you'd learn on the computer. It's because it's just like drawing on paper. It just has a couple more steps to it, and it's pretty good for
what
growth.
What are those steps? Do you?
Well, just finding out the brush sizes and brush tips there, or like pencil marks, and there's the brush tool that gives you kind of, I don't know, more of a brush type thing, or
Now, I
settings.
noticed that you're putting down a field, and you're going over the top of marks. But are they really going over the top, or you're just
I'm just
putting
so
down a
that
field of color or something?
yeah, I'm putting down some color here so that I'm just gonna leave some of these marks so I can remember where to put the darker marks back on, so that I can just get that
But
down.
will the darker marks that you made before, will they come through?
I think you can do that, but
Or have you erased them, or blotted them out, or?
I just decided to blot them out because
Okay.
I was gonna add some color here, but
That makes sense.
can put the pencil tool. I think it's right there. Yeah.
Seems like you're working on a landscape.
But messed up a little bit.
Is that primarily what you work on, or landscapes, or?
I work on landscapes and sometimes I work on landscapes, but most of the time I work on figures. It's primarily what I use. But most of the time I want to challenge myself as an artist to just make something that I don't usually do, so that I have more room to grow rather than just being stagnant with a bunch of figures. I feel like that if a person can draw a horse on paper and then draw a horse here, I don't feel like that makes much of a difference
Well,
with it.
absolutely. Now, I find it really interesting. You're thinking about this thing about cheating. That you're taking some kind of shortcut or something, or you feel like you might be accused of that, of taking a shortcut because of the computer. Because I don't see it that way at all. I think any artist would look at this and go, this is just another paintbrush in the quiver. This is another pencil. This is a number 007 pencil, which I've never used before. It's another tool. And I'm hoping that our audience, or people that may have said something to you about cheating before in the past, get to the point where they're can be empathetic in seeing that you're just using another tool to make art. Do you ever have trouble starting?
Starting off,
Yeah.
yeah, sometimes I have some creation blocks. Whenever I have trouble with that, I just think, what's my least favorite thing to draw? So then I just draw
Your least favorite?
Yeah, my least favorite thing to draw. So then I just start drawing that first for a warm up.
You do challenge yourself, don't you?
Yeah.
That's great.
Gonna choose.
I'm not going to embarrass myself, but I'm going to tell you one story. Is that when I was in your age in school, the computer class was a class where we had to feed in punch cards into a machine about the size of this room to make the machine keep records of everybody's grades.
Yeah. That
was the computer. Yeah. And there was a huge argument over calculators, whether to allow them into the classroom or not. And a lot of people accused students of that at that time who were using calculators, just calculators, could add and subtract and do division, that they were cheaters.
Yeah.
They would say that. And so it's kind of a parallel to what you're going through right now with graphics.
Yeah, with graphic design, because I would like to lean more on, like even more onto this than how I've usually been leaning onto it. But you know, I would
Leaning onto it, what do you mean?
like just like using this more often than just coming to MCAT and using it here, other than just using it here. I would like to learn more about how to use it even better than how I know how to use it right now.
Mm-hmm. Do you ever have trouble figuring out where to stop?
Yeah, sometimes, because sometimes I feel that, you know, it doesn't feel complete, but you know, most art always feels like that.
Mm-hmm.
So you just gotta, you know, feel good about what you've already finished up, and just go along with that. You know, it's a lot better feeling when you can say that, all right, that's good, I've completed this work, that's
Sure.
it, instead of having to go on about it for weeks to months.
Now, is your work like this included into like shows that are shared with your classmates?
I've shown a couple to share with my classmates, but not a lot of it would look like this, since it's because last time it was an animation that I was able to share.
And you can share a little bit of animation with us today, maybe?
Probably.
Okay.
I think that there'd be enough time to show a little bit of animation. I just need to open up that software,
Okay.
wherever that would be.
Well, this is fantastic.
Here, just makes probably a darker red. Right there.
Do you ever work in series of drawings? Like, this will be the first of 10 drawings about a story, or
Like a story, or
like a storyboard or a narrative?
a lot of it, yeah. I mean, I'm very interested in graphic design.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really interesting medium to work in. I enjoy, what is it? Just that kind of comic book style, like Roy Lichtenstein, or like Steve Ditko from one of the artists for the original Spider-Man comics and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I've always admired the art from that. Yeah.
Well, this is great. I really appreciate you being able to share this with us and the people who are watching. And hope we can look at a little bit of animation before we check out here.
Yeah. Totally. Just a little bit darker.
I didn't mean to interrupt you there. You can go at your own pace here.
Just a little bit of darker color.
Do you have other friends that work in the same way? Friends that you can talk with about this whole thing that you're working on?
Online, I think that, I usually try to reach out to anybody who's used this medium, or I've tried to study people who used this before so that I can have a better understanding of how to do it, since I'm fairly new to just using this, even though I know a lot of how some of it works, it's just some of it's a little hard to control and just hard to handle, and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes I just can't get it out to look right. Sometimes. So that's like, I usually go on to a bunch of videos on the internet or something to better educate myself on how these systems work, or how the art works.
You're so patient.
Yeah. Sometimes I feel like I'm a bit more patient with art than with anything else in life.
Do you ever walk away from this and revisit it the next day? Just save it?
And just revisit it after?
Yeah. Come back tomorrow and try to finish it up?
Yeah, if I just, just usually, if
Or
I
do you
feel
just
like,
find yourself, okay, I'm going to whip this out in 10 minutes and be done?
sometimes I'm that way, sometimes I'm not, and I sometimes make deadlines for myself, some other times I don't. Just trying to find that balance as to where I could find a specific style, just in case
Sure.
one day that I might have to find deadlines for doing art. I want to try to find out what my style would be
Yeah.
to meet
So
those
you
deadlines.
haven't really developed something you would call your own style?
Yeah, not like
Like when you look at someone who's doing, working on Spider-Man, they have a definite...
yeah, they have more of a definite style. I mean, the only style that I've been able to develop so far is just having this super harsh, dark black outline going around stuff sometimes. And that's about, that's about as far as some of my stuff gets, considering.
But the way you're navigating all of these tools and colors and points and width of line and shading, you have a real vision about what you want to happen.
Yeah. It's always a plus to know what you want, and then you know how to do it,
Sure, sure.
and that gives you a better sense of completion, that something came out correctly. Like, unlike how sometimes it comes out where it's just like, oh, man, I didn't want it to come out that way, or I didn't want it to come out this other way. But usually for me, sometimes if it doesn't come out the way I intended it to, sometimes I just try to make the most of it. And try to improve from there if it doesn't work out for me.
There's a lot going on in here right now, and I really appreciate the fact that you have some complements, some green and red, and some yellow and purple, and which is causing our eyes to jump around a little bit, but also focus on the landscape. So
Yeah.
I just think that's fantastic.
It's great.
I'm not supposed to be saying that, but our audience will, an audience will say whatever they want. They'll have a judgment inside of themselves when they see what it is you're working on. And you kind of have to set that aside and go, well, I'm just doing a drawing. Or I'm doing this, and that's what it's about. You have to allow judgments outside of all this other stuff that's going on. So
sometimes, if it's not about that, sometimes I just don't go into it as easily. But if there's anything about art, I'm glad to talk about it. It's a lot easier to.
And so we're going to tune in. What's the program you're using for animation?
I feel that Flash is the best. Is like the best type of program since it's just so easy. Do you want me to make a small animation, or should I just show some of these?
Yeah, we're just going to kind of wrap up here. So if you can, maybe you want to show something that you've worked on, and talk about how you've created it.
I'm gonna pull up one of the ones that I'm a lot more proud of.
Okay.
Let's see how fast this goes.
Oh.
There we go. All right. We'll just put that on a loop. There we go. Okay. And then we just play that over and over. All right, that just keeps going over and over. All right. So I remember creating this, I think it was almost about a month or a couple of weeks before school, before junior, I think it's junior year, junior year ended, and I was hankering to do some animation down at MCAT since Neil told me that one of my friends, Neil, who works here, told me that they've got this cool little setup here where you can animate stuff. So I was like, all right, cool. Before I had, like this Wacom and everything like that, I had like this mouse and then another little drawing pad, but I couldn't look at the screen while doing it. I'd have to look down and draw this kind of a quick thing while looking at the screen at the same time, but having to not look at my hand while drawing it.
So how would you even begin to start to do something like this?
So what I did here was I have two different layers. One layer is this guy right here. So I was able to draw him without interfering with
The back guy.
the other guy.
Yeah. So the person in the foreground, how many drawings is that?
This one right here.
This one?
Yeah, the foreground. So that's about about 16 frames. So that's about 16.
So you do frame by frame. You
Yeah, it's
draw
about
frame by frame. Okay.
It's about 16 different frames for this one explosion, which had to do with this guy. And then the top guy, I decided,
the background.
Yeah, is the background. Took about the same if you're counting an explosion, but this guy right here after the explosion would probably took about five frames, and then this guy came back for this frame. Also, the trick to how I made this seem so seamless was the frames per second counter. I'd put it up to 18 frames per second rather than having it at the 25, because the 25 went way too fast. Like if you put it up to 25, I'll just show you what happens if you put it higher than like up to about the traditional 25.
25 frames per second?
Yeah.
Wow.
So you just back it up and then go about 25. Nope. I have to pause it.
Wow.
So this is 18 frames. This would be 25 frames. And it would go incredibly fast.
Yeah.
So I didn't feel like that it would be able to show this and say, yeah, this is
But
this
all
is
of
what's
this
going
is
on.
your drawing.
Yeah, like just one of these, or using a mouse. Of course, you'd have to draw the thing about.
Yeah. The diminishing character and the enlarging character.
Yeah.
Yeah. And timing is everything.
Yeah, I had to make sure to make it look convincing that he was getting, blown up, rather than having it just seem like he gets hit and then just explodes for no reason.
Yeah. How many of these have you worked on?
These, I've worked on probably five or six. Some of them are like just a couple experiments, just like, just run down on these. I had like an idea for this. I just had an idea for this one, for this guy,
Yeah.
just a little explosion and everything, to see how that would look. And this is the one I'm like most proud of.
Yeah. Well, you
As-
should be.
As
It's
a,
really wonderful. Well, I want to thank you so much for coming on this program, and I know this program's a bit unusual, but the idea is just to encourage people to look, just to slow down and look. And I appreciate the way you have that skill in looking at the world and being able to absorb that yourself. And I think artists have that inside of them. They're changing the world with the way they're seeing. And unfortunately, I think sometimes television makes us speed up time.
Yeah.
So, but thank you so much for coming on today.
yeah,
I hope you come back again.
it was really good
Okay.
to be on the show.
Thank you, Rowan.